Hello again. This is yours truly making his vlog of August. Yeah, I know it's been a bit, but I was playing Oberon in our local production of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which made me think of something that I had thoughts about many moons ago when I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. And that thought had been that some friends had told me that there weren't any, okay, this is going to sound silly, there weren't any elves of color. So for me to have an elf that was Negro, he would have to be a half-elf. So what I had thought up was my own race of elves who happened to be of color. And the way I explained it was they weren't drow, so they weren't completely black with white hair, and they weren't of the other normal elf, so they weren't very pale with blonde hair. But these elves could be of many different races. I had come up with two completely different ways of explaining them away, technically three. One was that they were the children of normal elves and drow elves, who were called the Grey, and they had gone off to other parts of the Dungeons and Dragons universe and had children, and their children were able to mimic other races, and only elves could tell that they were not half-elf. So if you weren't elfin, you wouldn't be able to sense the magic that let you know that this was a full-on elf and not a half-elf that had mixed with some other breed or some other creature. And the other idea were that there were elves who had gone exploring and had found other gods who they worshipped, other than the gods that were worshipped by the main elves of the pale variety and the drow variety. And these gods were gods that had been warring with each other on a different part of the world. And because of their warring, their land had been broken into different pieces or territories. And so these different races of elves were on archipelagos, and sometimes they would fight with each other, but they were just starting to explore where they had come from, which is the main Dungeons and Dragons continent and universe. And that's where they were going to start to flourish, when you would see them showing up all of a sudden, and they would be known as the Metal Elves, mainly because of their different colored skin being copper looking or bronze looking or golden. So you would find elves that seem to be more Asian and or in our sense Indian or native or aboriginal or Negro. So there would have been different races of elves which took on races that we would have normally given to humans. So those were my ideas. And the latter half, I had come up with naming those elves Arawakian elves. And the Arawakian elves would have been elves of brownish skin like wood or of different trees, and with hair that seemed to be like the wool of of black sheep. And that would have been my reasoning for having elves of color. But that was just my idea. A young college student at the time who really enjoyed AD&D and wanted to see more magical creatures that